So here we are. This is the basic Python class, and we're down to chapters 11 and 12, which I've got here. So 11 is, there we are, tuples. We're going to talk about tuples, which are an interesting Python data structure, which turns out to be pretty useful. So a tuple is like a list, except it's immutable. That's the main difference. So you can define a tuple by just having a comma-separated list of values. So here we just have a series of letters, and its type of it is now, lupin is just, it's a tuple. Looks like a list, but a list would have square brackets around it. You can put it in parentheses if you want. That's another way to do it. And if you want a tuple with a single element, you have to include the comma. Then it's a tuple. If you just put a single value in parentheses, then it's just a string. It's not a tuple. That might get you. The lack of a comma means it's technically not a tuple, although I do not know any reason why you would want a tuple with only one value. Anyway, all right, you can also use the built-in function tuple. This will make an empty tuple another thing, which I don't understand what value this would have, but technically you can make it. Now, if you have a sequence like lupin, then it will spread them out, break it up into individual components, so that's handy. All right, and you of course shouldn't use it as a variable name because tuple is a reserved name. So you can do most things with a tuple of what you did with the list. You can refer to an individual element, T0, you can go from 1 to 3, that'll be UPI. Oh, UP but not including I, because it goes from the first number up to but not including the second number, just like in a list. You can add tuples together. Now remember I said a tuple is invariable. I forget the technical term for this, something that cannot be changed, immutable. It's immutable. So how can you add to it? Well, you're creating a new tuple. You can take this tuple and you can add that tuple and create a new tuple object. That doesn't change either of the first ones. And you can multiply a tuple many times, so you have just a repetition of the contents. All right, you can use sorted. But if you sort a tuple, you get a list, and note the square brackets. You get alphabetically sorted list. You can use reversed for tuple, to reverse the items, and it'll tell you to point to the object. If you look at the reversed object, you can turn it to a tuple or a list with the function. All right, so they look like the same as lists, but they're immutable. So if you try to change the letter to a capital L, it'll complain. You cannot change an item in a tuple, although you can in a list. That's why I've said before, a list is usually the all-purpose data structure you use for most purposes. Very handy. It handles any kind of data, indexes it, and you can change it, so it's all-purpose. These are more specialized items you'd use here, like a tuple. You also can't remove an item from a tuple. That would involve changing it. You can't append an item to the end either. Now, all right, you can have an attribute associated with it, but this means tuples don't have any attribute remove. I mean, there is no remove function or attribute you can do with it. All right, tuples are immutable, therefore they can be hashable. So you can use them as keys in a dictionary, although I don't know a case in which you'd want to do this, but you could have a tuple 1, 2 be a key, and the tuple 3, 4 be a key, and assign an item to it. And now, if you looked at D, now let's just print out the value of D to see what we got here. Now we have a dictionary with a tuple as a key and the value 3, and this tuple as a key and the value 7. So you can technically do that, although it would be a little difficult to think of a situation where that would actually make sense. And there you can therefore look up an item. The item with the key 1, 2 is 3. If you have a variable, you can put it in a variable and then look for it. Your variable can be a tuple, and that'll be the key. You can also use tuples as values. So I can make a dictionary that has a key value and then a tuple as the result. All right, you can put a tuple on the left-hand side. This is something that's very useful. I can assign two things at once. A and B will be assigned to 1 and 2. And now, that's technically a tuple, but the elements are just going to be integers. So if I print A and B, it'll print, I think it's only going to print one of them in this case. And I don't know why it's being so slow. That's sort of goofy. Shell is already running. Okay, there we go. So it printed just one of them. I think I have to do explicit print if I want to print two things in a line with this crazy thing. So print A, and print B is the way I'd like to do it. So I'm not using this bizarre feature, but I'll just print something if you put it alone on a line there. So A and B are just numbers, but the combination of them is a tuple and can be set to a tuple. All right, you can display results like this, A comma B, you'll see the tuple. All right, and if the left is a tuple, the right can be any kind of sequence, which is nice. So here, if I can split something on the @ sign to split an email, and then I'll get the stuff to the left and the stuff to the right as separate items, and I can get them both here. So username and domain are going to be username and domain like that. So that's actually pretty handy. All right, and the number of variables on the left and the right have to be the same though. So if I try to have 2 items set to 3 items, it won't let you do it. All right, and this is one that's quite handy. This is something I've been doing for over 50 years. I was thinking about it earlier in many simpler programming languages. This is how you switch 2 numbers. You copy one into temp, copy B into A, and copy temp into B. That's how you would reverse A and B. With tuple assignment, you can do this, AB equals BA, which is a handy shortcut to reverse 2 items. All right, you can also do this in a for statement. You can define a dictionary which has keys that are alphabetical and values that are numbers, and then you can list through the items, and you can say each item has 2 elements, key and value. So you can print the key and the value for each one. That's one way to do it. You also do not need to use this internal item thing. You can do it this way. For key value in the items, you can have a for loop for 2 items here, which is pretty nice. Nice way to shrink down looking through a list. And you can return, a function can only return 1 value, but the value could be a tuple. By the way, it could be a list too. But anyway, so if I do div mod, it takes 2 arguments and returns a tuple of 2 values. 7 divided by 3 is 2 with a remainder of 1. So you can use tuple assignment. Quotient remainder equals that, and there's the quotient, and there's the remainder. So that's a useful thing. And as we've seen before in the projects, this is how the raw network sockets work. They take a tuple, which is the URL and the port number, to open a connection to a URL and a port number for TCP networking. So here's a function that returns a tuple. It's going to return the minimum and the maximum of anything that comes in, like a list or something. And so now I can do min max of this list, 2, 4, 1, 3, and I'll get 1 and 4, the smallest and largest value. You can assign them to variables like this and get 1 and 4. All right. You can now have a function with variable number of arguments. Star will unpack it. Or they call it pack it into a tuple, pardon me. So this will take all the arguments and pack them into a tuple so it treats as 1 argument. And then you can do the sum over the length of it. So this will be the average of any series of numbers that come in. So I can get the mean of 1, 2, 3. Now one thing is, you can't do the sum or the length if I have non-numerical items here. So if I put apple here, it should give me some kind of error. And it does. Okay, that makes more sense. All right, now if you have a sequence of values and you want to pass them as multiple arguments, you can use the star to unpack the tuple. So here, div mod takes 2 arguments, and if I pass a tuple, then it's going to give me an error. And by the way, another way to do this would be up here where I had div mod. Here, div mod, there. Right, div mod 7.3. Another way to make that error would be just to put more parentheses here. There. Now instead of passing it 2 arguments, 7 and 3, I'm passing it 1 argument that is the tuple 7, 3, and it's not going to like it. Okay. So, all right. What you can do, though, is use star to unpack it. That will take, if I go here, t is 7, 3. If I do star t, that's going to be okay, because star t is going to be the 2 values. If I just print them here, it'll show you. You can't use this. Oh, I can't use it here. Anyway, can I print? Maybe I can do this. Yeah, I can. Printing it is 7, 3. It's 2 items. All right. Anyway, so you can adapt behavior in an existing function. Here's a function that takes any number of arguments. It finds the lowest and highest. It removes the lowest and highest by turning it into a list first, so it's mutable, and then gives the average the others. So this is a fairly common activity, and we talk about it in the AI class and any kind of data analysis classes. You often want to remove the outliers because there are extreme values that you don't really want to include in your estimate of central tendency of some data. So that's what this does. This gives you the trimmed mean. And so if you give it this 1, 2, 3, and 10, it should throw away 1 and 10 and give you 2.5. And I'm a little confused why it didn't give me 2.5. Oh, this is the real mean before trimming it. Okay, the actual mean of this, okay, this is 10 and 6, 16 divided by 4. The actual mean is 4, but the trimmed mean is going to be 2.5. There we are. Okay, fair enough. All right, and then there's zip, which I've actually seen used quite a lot, and I've used it a few times. If you have two lists of the same length and you want to pair them up one by one, the way I've always done this, because of more than 50 years of using more primitive languages, I would count through the index, 0, 1, 2, and then pick the items out of the list by the index. But you can do that automatically in Python with zip. Zip will create tuples that give you the matched pairs here. So the zip object, if you print the objects in here, you'll see it pairs them up. So 1, 5, 2, 5, 4, 2, and so on. So if these are a list of scores for some kind of game like tennis or something, you now have each game's score. That's a pretty handy thing. So now you can zip through it, team 1 and team 2, and find out how many times team 1 won that way. All right. If you have two lists and you want a list of pairs, you can use zip and list. Zip will pair them up into a tuple, and list will turn it into a list. All right. So now you can get the result of the last game this way with t minus 1. Now, I think that would work even if it was not a list. Let's try that and see. Because I think you can use indexing. Let's see if I can get that to bagger. Now that's going to be a tuple. Oh, it's a zip. May not work now. No, zip is not subscriptable. Okay. That's interesting. A zip object is not a list. That's why you had to turn it into a list. Fair enough. All right. So now, if you have keys and values, here we have a list of alphabetical letters, and we can make numbers is a list arranged to the length of it. That's going to start counting at 0 and count up to 25. And we can now make a dictionary of zip. So now we're going to have a map between numbers and letters. So we can look up the number for A is 0 and the number for Z is 25 and so on. All right, if you need to loop through them, you can use enumerate. Enumerate will take the items and turn them into an enumerate object that loops through a sequence of pairs where it has an index and a value. So we can print out the values and see that made a 0A, 1A, 2C. So it automatically did the stuff that we were doing up here step by step. It created that kind of list of pairs. All right, and you can compare things. You can compare a tuple, and this is like alphabetical sorting. It compares the first item, and if they're different, it doesn't look any further or looks for the first non-matching item. So the zeros match, but the 1 is less than a 3, so the first one is going to be considered less than the second one. That's how it acts. And even if you have a really big number here, it's never going to look there because 1 is less than 3, and it just matches, considers elements until it finds ones that are different, which is what you would do to alphabetize lists of letters comprising words. You can find the most common letter in a word. Value counts is something we wrote before. It takes a string. For each letter in the string, it starts with an empty dictionary. If it's a new letter, it adds it to the dictionary with a count of 1, and if it's already in the dictionary, it increments the count by 1, so it'll return a dictionary of the words, of the letters, and how often they are. So here's what you get for banana. You get there's 1 B, 3 A's, and 2 N's. All right, so that's easy enough. Now you might want to sort them to find the most frequent letter, so you can get the items this way, and that'll give you tuples. All right. And now you have dict item pairs like list of tuples, so you have B, A, and N. Now you could sort them, but that sorts them by the first element, A, B, and N, to make them alphabetical, which is one possible sort. But what we really wanted to do is to sort by the second element to find the most frequent item, and we didn't do that yet. So we're going to use the second element to sort the list. So you write a function that takes a tuple and returns the second element, which is extremely simple, of course. And now you can pass it to sorted as an optional argument called key, which is how it's going to get the key. And you could use any kind of calculation on the tuple to determine the key. So now it's going to sort by that key. And now you'll get it sorted by frequency. So the most frequent value is at the end. All right. And so to get the most frequent item, you go to -1 to get the last item in the list, which is A. If you only want the maximum, you don't actually need to sort the list. You can use max, which will find the maximum of the items list based on the key again, and you'll find that A appears 3 times. All right. So maybe you want to invert a dictionary so you can reverse the values and the keys. Now, that's a problem here because there might be more than one letter with the same count. So if you want to go from having letters be the key and count be the value, and switch to count being the key and the letter being a value, then what if you have 2 letters with the same count, like they appear twice? Well, then you could make a list of all the items that appear twice. So that's what this is going to do. Value count. You count the letters and pair it. There they are. And see, there's a whole bunch of letters that appear only one time, and R appears twice. If you invert it, what you want is 1, and then a whole list of values, and 2, and a list containing only 1 value. So this is how you do it. For key value in the items, if the value is not in the new list, then set it equal to key. If it is in the new list, then append the new item to that. So it's now you're going to have get the list, this list you see right here. A key of 1 and the letters that appear only once, key of 2 and the letters that appear 2 times, and so on. Now you can test it like this. That's called invert dictionary. So we can invert dictionary D, and there we get it. 1 is the count of all these letters, 2 is the count of that letter. All right, fair enough. And there was a strange thing he wrote here to use that I didn't think was too important. So that's it for there. And I see a comment about Musk is there. All right, anyway, let me stop this recording.